Hey, all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly values, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hey there, my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel. I'm your hostess, femininity coach, and author of the Crimson Cure, and this is my perspective. So, I wanted to touch base quickly with this. This is Tahiri Jose, and apparently she's on a podcast as well, called At This Big Age. And I want you guys to hear her talk about where she is now and her decision to try to freeze her eggs and things of that nature. And then we're going to talk a little bit about women like her finding themselves in certain positions later on in life due to their decisions earlier in their lives. So here we go.
Many years, and I always say be careful what you say. I think since I was 30, I'm like, I'm gonna freeze my eggs, but I'm still, dating and having sex and having boyfriends and long-term relationships, and just I'm like, I'm gonna freeze my eggs. And eventually 2021 and 2022, I did 2 cycles of IVF. Oh, God put me in a situation where I was able to do it alone, and it was a very it was a really hard thing to do by yourself. One, because I'm hard on myself, and two, because my eggs are in the freezer somewhere, and as a Latin, like, I'm Latina, I'm an Afro Latina, like, me trying to explain this to my 86-year-old grandmother, she thought something was wrong with me. Because at this big age, I'm supposed to have kids, be married, or have an unsuccessful relationship somewhere, a divorce, but then have kids. Like, what is wrong with Tahiri? And now I feel like I'm in a rush.
I think that's such a special
For many years,
and I'm so like in awe of you for like even going and doing it and taking that step by yourself and still like striving and pushing forward to have that family. Because you can always pop those babies in there and
that's
them on out. And I love that.
I mean, ugh, this is such a rough situation. And I always say, be careful what you.
Okay. So Tahiri just got through, and this is also how women keep other women in delusion, right? Because Tahiri wasn't even feeling what her co-host was saying. Because what she's telling her is that this is not an ideal position at all. Like, I don't feel empowered. I don't feel brave. I don't feel accomplished. I feel like this is a last ditch effort because I failed. That is what Tahiri is saying. She spent mid-20s probably into like early 30s being toxic in a toxic relationship with a toxic man, Joe Budden. Now, it gave her a little bit of coin because their toxic relationship, back and forth relationship, proved to be good fodder for reality television, right? But it was a toxic situation all the way around. Tahiri's toxic, Joe is toxic, and they were toxic together, okay? For privately and publicly. She comes out later on and says how Joe was abusive to her. He answers it and says he wasn't. This, that, and the third. Then we saw another sort of public relationship that she had with Votto. Yet again, it proved to be fodder for reality television, this time on Marriage Boot Camp, where they weren't even married. They was like together. They had known each other, grew up together in Harlem together and all this kind of stuff. They was like friends with Bennies and all of this. And we saw the snippet of the episode where they were supposed to be doing this type of exercise. Tahiri gets mad at it. And when Votto didn't back down, she started throwing apples at him like she was blazing him with them apples, right? And so when they got into like a little group thing and talk about what led to that explosion, he gets up and like he chokes her, right? And the audience had mixed views about that because obviously people don't think that a man is supposed to do that and, don't advocate that type of violence. But the mixed reviews came from, well, she perpetrated violence on him though. Like nobody was upset when she was throwing blazing them apples in his face. And in green apples particularly, because they hard. And so the audience was a little bit mixed on that, because they like, okay, he may have been wrong, but she wasn't right either. She wasn't completely a victim, because this was more like mutual violence rather than she's being abused by a person and she's not, and she's being docile and not fighting, and he's just fighting on her, right? So then, we don't hear too much at all after that about any relationship that she was in. At least it wasn't public to my knowledge. And so now Tahiri's only about 2 years younger than me. She's a Gen X girl. She's in her 40s. She has neither a marriage nor any children. And she says what it was. She's like, I'm thinking in my 30, at 30, I'm gonna freeze my eggs, but also that I have time, that I can go out here and get into a relationship. Eventually, I will get into a relationship. And this is where the problem come in at with these women, because they always think they have more time than they actually have. The problem with Tahiri and women like her is that it's not so much the time that's always the problem. It's what you do with the time. These ladies do not take the time to actually go and heal. They just go into these different relationships. They blame the men and say that the men are the ones with the problem. They don't really have too much of a problem to address. And then they continue to attract the same kinds of men that they say they don't want, that they're having bad experiences with. And so they wait until they get this big age. It's interesting that they name the podcast that. They wait till they get this big age, mid 40s. Now, she's still not really talking about making sure she healed. She's more so just accepting that she never was able to get into a successful relationship and have a family. And now it looks funny, culturally speaking, because her abuela doesn't understand why she's at her age and there was no family ever. There's never been a family. There's never a marriage. There was never a, you know what I'm saying? Like, you were never chosen ever by nobody. Right? So now trying to explain that to her abuela is she is shamefaced, right? Shamefaced, because culturally she was supposed to be able to get herself together. She was at least supposed to be able to do a Cardi B, right? Because Cardi B is Latina, right? And Cardi B got ratchet music. She but she was able to get herself into a marriage and all that good stuff. Now, we don't know the success of it or the longevity of it, but it's there. And Tahiri didn't have that. Tahiri didn't have that, and she still don't have it. And when her co-host was trying to big up her and make her feel good about that, that's why Tahiri was looking like with a scrunched face, like, didn't you just hear what I said? Didn't you just hear me say that this is not good? Didn't you just hear me tell you that I'm in a bad position? And you trying to big up me, you trying to do this whole black girl magic, we still strong, girl. This ain't no good position. This is a terrible position I'm in. And I don't wish it on nobody. I made such horrible decisions with my body, with myself, with my relationships, with the way I went about it with men. That you thinking I had all this time I didn't have. I did so much damage to myself. Now I'm in this position where I can't even recover. So this is what Tahiri's talking about. Don't try to gaslight me at the end of it. Anyway, jump down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Once again, I'm your hostess, the Crimson Cure, and this was my perspective. Bye-bye, Crimsonites.